Ever type a question into that little search bar and like marvel at how fast the internet spits back an answer? Well, today's deep dive, we're going behind the scenes of that everyday magic, to unearth well, it's kind of long and twisty tale of internet search engines.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Like, we just take this incredible technology for granted now. But the thing is, this whole quest to organize and access information, it goes way, way back, long before the internet as we know it even existed.
Okay, so give me the historical deep cuts here. What were people using before Google? Like before we were all glued to our smartphones, how'd they find anything?
All right, well, imagine this. 1945, right? World's still recovering from World War. And this American engineer, Vannevar Bush, he dreams up this thing called a Memex.
Memex.
Yeah, picture like a desk. But instead of being cluttered with papers, it instantly pulls up any book, document, image, anything you can imagine. And it's all connected through links. Like, Bush basically predicted hyperlinks decades before the first website even existed.
Wow. 1945. So that's where this whole interconnected information thing starts. But how do we get from a futuristic desk to, like, actual search engines?
It's a gradual thing, right? It's an evolution. Before the web took over everything in the 90s, there were already these tools for navigating the early internet. Like, take WHOIS, for example. It wasn't about searching web pages. It was more about finding other users, but only on specific networks.
Okay, so more like a directory of users than a search engine.
Oh, exactly. Then in 1990, you see Archie come out. And Archie was a big deal because it indexed file names, but on FTP servers.
FTP servers, wow, now those take me back. Ancient history for, like, anyone who doesn't remember life before high-speed internet.
Exactly. Back then, FTP servers, that's how you shared files. So Archie, it made it possible to search for specific files across all those servers, which was a huge step forward. But the real game changer was obviously the World Wide Web.
Because suddenly it wasn't just about finding files, right? It was about searching all the content on all these web pages that were popping up left and right.
Precisely. In the early 90s, the web just explodes in popularity, and navigating this new frontier, it becomes a real challenge. And that's where the first, like, true web search engines come in.
Yeah.
In 1993 alone, we see the launch of W3 Catalog and AliWeb.
The pioneers. What was so innovative about them? I mean, were they already doing what Google does now?
Well, they were definitely laying the groundwork, but on a much, much smaller scale. Like W3 Catalog, for instance, that was just a manually curated list of websites.
Wow, can you imagine the dedication?
Right.
It really makes you appreciate how far things have come. So from those early attempts, like, who makes it onto the Mount Rushmore of search engines? Whose names should we know?
Okay, so alongside those pioneers, we've got some names you might recognize, some you won't. So 1993 also saw JumpStation arrive on the scene. And this one's fascinating because it's the first to combine three elements that are still crucial today: crawling, indexing, and searching.
So they cracked the code early on. What did some of these other engines bring to the table?
Oh, a ton of innovation, and in a very short period. Like in 94, WebCrawler bursts onto the scene, and their thing was full-text search. So for the first time, users could search for any word on a web page, not just titles or pre-selected keywords.
That's huge. No more trying to, like, guess how a website might have described itself. Were these the only major players back then?
Not at all. Alongside WebCrawler, you had Lycos, which was a project that started at Carnegie Mellon University, and it quickly became a major, major contender in the commercial search engine arena.
So 1994 was a pivotal year for search.
Absolutely. And in that same year, we can't forget about another big player, Yahoo.
Yahoo! Still around today.
Right. But initially, they were known for their web directory. So that was like a human-curated list of websites organized by category. It wasn't until 95 that they added a search function, which kind of shows how these different approaches to organizing the web were starting to kind of like blend together and intertwine.
From web directory to search giant. What a journey. So many players in such a short time, it seems like. Like the Wild West back then.
It definitely was. And as we move into the late 90s, things get even more interesting.
Okay, so the late 90s, the internet's exploding, everyone's online, and we've got all these search engines duking it out for supremacy. Sounds kind of chaotic.
Oh, it absolutely was.
Yeah.
Imagine, right? You fire up your web browser, and every other day, there's a different search engine staring back at you.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. That's what Netscape, one of the main browsers back then, that's what they did. They'd made deals with, the big names like Yahoo, Magellan, Lycos, InfoSeek, Excite. They'd rotate which one got that prime real estate, right there on the browser search bar.
Talk about vying for attention. It's like a billboard bidding war, but for search engines.
Exactly. It was all about grabbing those eyeballs. And in the middle of all of this little company called, well, Google, they were quietly working on something, well, something game-changing.
Ugh, Google. From underdog to, well, the Google. Everyone knows
Mhm.
that name now. But how'd they do it? How'd they manage to, like, leapfrog the competition?
It all comes down to this one revolutionary algorithm,
PageRank.
PageRank.
Right.
Developed by Google's founders, Sergey Brin and Larry Page, PageRank, it took a totally different approach.
Mm.
See, before PageRank, search engines, they struggled to tell the difference between a truly popular website and one that was just really good at, stuffing keywords into their pages.
Mhm.
PageRank changed the game. It recognized that a website endorsed by other reputable sites through backlinks was probably more valuable to users.
So it's like a vote of confidence from one website to another. The more votes you got, the higher you ranked.
Yeah, exactly. But the real genius of PageRank was how nuanced it was. It didn't just count the number of backlinks, it also factored in their quality. So a backlink from a highly respected website, like, say, a university or a government institution, that carried a lot more weight than a link from, just some random blog post or a website known for spam.
So Google was kind of tapping into the social fabric of the web, right? Like recognizing that websites don't just exist in isolation.
Exactly. Google, they understood that the web wasn't just a collection of pages. It was a network of interconnected ideas, communities, you name it. And PageRank, it reflected that understanding. But their success wasn't just about one algorithm. They kept going, kept refining and improving their approach to search. They started incorporating things like content quality, user experience, and later on, even mobile friendliness, all factored into their algorithms, which, by the way, were always evolving.
So it became this constantly adapting system, always trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Right, and that constant evolution is a big reason why they're still at the top.
Mm.
Now, don't get me wrong, other engines like Bing, Yahoo, and even privacy-focused ones like DuckDuckGo, they've all carved out their own little niches. But Google's dominance, well, it's undeniable. They've changed how we access information in the 21st century.
It's mind-boggling when you think about it, like the sheer scale of Google's operation. They're indexing billions of web pages. But for those of us who aren't, coding whizzes, how does it actually work? What's the magic that happens between typing a question into that little box and getting back a page of hopefully, relevant results?
Well, it's a surprisingly intricate process.
Yeah.
But we can break it down, I think, into three core pillars:
Yeah.
crawling, indexing, and searching. Think of it, if you will, like exploring a vast and ever-expanding library.
Okay, I like that analogy. So tell me more about these pillars.
Right, so crawling. Crawling is like sending out this army of tireless librarians to explore every single nook and cranny of that library. Google uses these automated bots, which are often called spiders or crawlers, to visit websites, read their content, follow links, discover new pages. It's like they're constantly weaving this intricate map of the entire web, right? Yeah. And they're constantly updating it as they discover new pathways, new connections.
So it's like a never-ending web-wide scavenger hunt. But what happens to all the information those crawlers, gather?
Ah, that's where indexing comes in. So imagine, right, our diligent librarians, they're meticulously cataloging every single book in this massive library. They're recording its title, author, subject, key themes, you name it. And that's essentially what search engines do during indexing. They create this massive database associating all those keywords and content from those crawled web pages with their specific URLs. So it's like building the super detailed searchable card catalog, but for the entire internet.
Okay, so they're bringing order to the chaos of the web, making it all searchable. But what about that final pillar, the actual searching part? How does that work?
So that's when you, the user, you step up to the librarian's desk, right, with a question. So when you type your query into a search engine, it dives into that index database, sifting through literally billions of catalog pages to find the ones that match your keywords. And then, here's the kicker, it ranks those pages. But it's based on this complex set of factors to try and deliver the absolute most relevant results.
So it's like having like a super efficient librarian,
Right.
One who knows the entire library inside and out and can instantly sift through millions of books to hand you this perfectly curated selection based on your exact needs.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And just like a human librarian, they might remember what you've liked in the past, right? Well, search engines can actually personalize results based on your search history, your location, a ton of other factors.
Which, I mean, it's helpful, but it also makes you wonder if we're all getting these slightly different versions of the internet. Like, tailored to our own digital footprints?
Yeah, that's definitely a question worth pondering. As we rely more and more on these search engines to navigate this ever-expanding universe of information, it's more important than ever to be aware of how these tools, powerful as they are, how they shape our understanding of the world.
Absolutely. And on that note, we'll leave you with a thought to chew on. In this age of instant information where search engines are like our constant companions, how can we make sure that we're engaging with information critically, that we're exploring different perspectives, challenging our own assumptions? It's a question worth asking every time we fire up our favorite search engine. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the fascinating world of internet search.